The longer that you do photography, the more you realize something slightly annoying. This whole thing is way simpler than people make it sound. And after more than 10 years behind the camera, I can tell you this. Most beginners are not struggling because photography is too hard. They're struggling because they're focusing on the wrong things. So, have you ever gone somewhere and it feels and looks just absolutely beautiful? And then you pull up your camera, take the shot, and somehow it looks sucky as hell? I have. I'm talking no depth, no mood, no drama, just boring ass photo. So naturally you start blaming things. Maybe the camera isn't good enough. Maybe the lens that you just bought isn't sharp enough. Maybe your settings are even to blame and they're wrong. And so on and so on. But then you see someone take a photo of a completely ordinary scene and somehow it looks cinematic as hell. Expensive even. Like something straight out of a film, you know? And the annoying part is that it has nothing to do with the subject. I mean, it's not necessarily like they found a better mountain or a better street or a better tree doing, tree things. They simply just showed up when the scene looked better. And that, my friend, is the part most beginners underestimate. A photo can change completely based on one thing. And that one thing is where the light is coming from, what time of the day it is, whether the sun is low or it's high up and harsh and completely overhead. Also, whether the sky is just dull and flat and boring or it's full of drama and looking juicy as hell, I think you get where I'm going with this. And the thing is that once you start to noticing this, you realize something slightly offensive. The difference between an average photo and a sick, epic, beautiful photo is very often just light. That's it. Now, of course, this is not the case every single time, but it's way more often than people like to think. And that's because good light, it gives shape, it gives depth, it gives emotion, and bad light, it makes almost everything look suckier. It just makes everything harder. I'm not sure suckier is a word, but you know what I'm saying. So, a lot of the time, the photo wasn't bad because the place was boring, it was bad because the light was. And once you realize that, you stop asking, what setting should I use here? And you start asking, is this actually the right moment to shoot this? But here's the problem, my friend. Even if the light is amazing and it slaps hard, people still often manage to ruin the photo, and they usually ruin it in the exact same way. By the way, if you want to become a better photographer, then I send out free weekly emails. They're short, fun, easy to read, and packed with value. If that sounds interesting to you, then it's totally free, and it's a link down in the description down below. So, have you ever seen a photo taken on a terrible camera, and somehow it still looked incredible? Then, maybe 5 minutes later, you see a photo taken on some absurdly expensive setup and it just looks average, below average, maybe even like flat out sucks, For those of us who have seen that, then that's indeed a very annoying thing to notice because it suggests that image quality is not doing nearly as much heavy lifting as people want to believe. And once that thought gets into your head, you kind of start to notice it everywhere. Now, a quick disclaimer, a better camera, it can, of course, give you more detail, better autofocus, better dynamic range, and all of that other good stuff. And that's cool and all, But what it cannot do, it cannot decide what belongs inside the frame. It also cannot move distracting junk out of the background, and it cannot decide whether your subject stands out or if it gets swallowed by all the other visual chaos that you see in the frame. That part is still on you, my friend. And that's why some images feel strong instantly. Just you see them and go like, wow, my life is changing. Thank you. Even, if they weren't taken on anything fancy at all. I mean, the frame, it's clean. Your eyes know exactly where to look. There is a clear subject. There's no pointless distractions, no random mess fighting for attention, and everything just feels intentional. And when I see that, I just go like, thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Photographer, for showing me this beauty, And that's exactly what people are responding to. to, not the camera, but of course everybody knows that ladies like expensive cameras. But what's more important is that people are responding to the way that you decided to compose the image. My friend, composition is the name of the game, and that's the lesson a lot of people avoid for way too long. Because improving your framing, it's harder than buying new gear. And it means slowing down, looking around the edges, moving your feet, changing angle, removing distractions, using lines, using separation, simplifying the image until it actually says something and just looks freaking amazing. And that, my friend, is the real difference. The strongest photographers are usually not using better cameras. Sometimes they do, or often they do. But more importantly, they're placing things inside the frame better. And that's what makes an image sick. And to be honest, that's actually fantastic news because it means the photo gets better before your gear does. However, even if you understand all that, a lot of people still don't improve. Not because they lack talent, but because they make this one very normal mistake. You see, a lot of beginners spend a lot of time around photography without actually doing a lot of photography. And I get it, because it feels really productive. Watching tutorials feels productive as hell. Researching cameras, it also feels productive, and then saving inspiration, it feels productive. I mean, convincing yourself that you're learning while you're sitting on your sofa in your panties, and hey, I'm not judging here, but that shit, it feels absolutely productive. I know that from experience. But when you're stuck in that loop, your camera, it stays on the shelf, you know. And then a weird thing happens. You start knowing more complex photography lingo and terminology, but your photos, they don't really change or get better. Because photography has this one annoying habit of only really clicking, no pun intended here, when you go out and do it, not just when you hear about it. Now, of course, you still need knowledge, you still need guidance, and you still need someone to teach you things. But at some point, you have to get your ass out and actually start to use it. I mean, you can understand exposure theory inside out and still completely mess it up when you're out in real life. You can also know what a perfect composition is supposed to look like and still frame things badly. You can even watch videos of light all day long and still miss it when it's right there in front of you. And that's because, and this is so important, my friend, knowledge is not the same as instinct. You see, instinct, it comes from reps, from missed shots, from bad framing, from overexposed skies, from shooting something, checking the results, realizing it looks fucking awful as hell, and then adjusting. That's, my friend, is actually how you get better. That's how you train your eyes to see things. That's how your reaction time becomes faster. And that's how photography stops feeling like theory and starts feeling natural. For me personally, one of the biggest jumps came from simply shooting more often, more consistently, and more even when I didn't feel inspired. I mean, I've made 2 365-day challenges on Instagram. That means posting daily without missing a day for an entire year, just to force myself to shoot more, edit more, and constantly be thinking about photography and frames. And that's what people want to avoid because it's hard work, for sakes. I'm getting all worked up here, but this is like what I truly believe in, you know. I feel like so many people, they wait to feel creative, they wait for a cool place, good weather, a perfect day, a sign from the universe, you know, the man upstairs. Meanwhile, the photographers who improve the fastest are usually just giving themselves more chances to improve. I mean, it's so simple when you come to think about it. It's just more attempts, more failures, more repetitions. And that, my friend, is the truth a lot of people don't love hearing. You get better at photography by taking a shit ton of photos, like a lot. And it's not because that sounds deep, it's because that's literally how it works. However, this is usually where things get a bit annoying, because yes, you need to shoot more, but when you're completely new, this advice can be wildly unhelpful. Because you might be asking yourself then, shoot what? What should I actually focus on? What matters first? What do you need to understand before you can even start to practice properly? And that's exactly, my friend, why I built the 14-day photographer the way that I did. And it's a course made for beginners in 2 parts. First, it's the essentials. This is the part you watch just straight away. It's only about 40 minutes or so. But in that short time, it teaches you how your camera actually works and the fundamentals of what really makes a good photo. So instead of feeling confused by settings, buttons, and a millions other bits of random advice, you finally understand what's going on. Then comes the second part, the 14-day journey. And that's where me and you put it into practice together. You see, each day you get one simple lesson and one focused tasks, and then each day builds on top of each other. Because as I've been hammering on, photography is not something you learn best by just collecting more information. It really starts to make sense when you actually start to go out and do it. So the whole idea is really simple. First, I help you understand your camera and the fundamentals, and then I help you actually use them. Because honestly, that's the part I was missing when I was learning. And it would have saved me months, if not even probably years, if someone had just taught me photography in the right way. So if you want that, then it's linked down below. But even if you start practicing more, there is another mistake that quietly makes a lot of photos worse. I really hope that you're not doing this one. You see, a lot of weak photos have the same problem. I mean, they're simply just trying to do too much. Too many subjects, too much clutter, and too many things pulling your eye in too many directions at once. And when that happens, the viewer, it doesn't really know what matters in the frame. They just sort of look around the frame like they just respawned at a supermarket aisle with no shopping list at all. You just stand there going like, what am I supposed to look at, you know? And this is something that a lot of photographers learn way too late. I sure did that. And if you look at my early photos, they were busy as hell. And it's just kind of embarrassing to show you this. But it's because in the beginning, more feels better. More details, more object, more complexity, that's the English word, and more stuff. I mean, it feels like this. If the frame has a lot going on, then surely it must be more interesting. But usually the opposite is true. Usually the stronger image is the one that became clearer, cleaner, more focused, and more obvious in the best possible way. I'm talking one subject, one idea, and one thing that the eye can land on. And once you start noticing that, you realize that a lot of the best photos are not powerful because they include so much. They're powerful because they remove the things that don't matter. And that, my friend, is super hard when it comes to photography. Basically, the distractions are gone. The frame, it breathes, and the subject, it has room. And the image says one thing clearly instead of saying 5 things badly, you know? And that is the reason why simple photos usually hit harder. Not because they're empty, but because they are intentional. And that, my friend, is a very different thing. So when a photo feels weak, messy, and confusing, a really good question to ask is not what can I add? It's what can I remove? Of course, with a rolling R, remove. Now that question alone, my friend, will save you a ridiculous amount of photos. But even if you get all of that right, you can still miss the shot completely if you don't watch out for this next thing. So there is this one moment almost every photographer has had or will have, and it's this. You find a nice location, you take a few frames, nothing special really happens, so you just assume this is it. You shrug, you pack your bag, head home, and you tell yourself the place, it just wasn't that interesting. Then later, you're scrolling Instagram and you see that someone else has shot that same spot and got something absolutely incredible. And now, if you're something like me, you might be a bit annoyed. Because apparently the location was not the problem, the timing was. And that, my friend, is by far one of the hardest things about photography. A scene can be ordinary for 96.7% of the time, and then all of a sudden it becomes amazing for about 4 seconds or so. I mean, it's just so ridiculous when you experience this, but it can be like the light shifts, a person walked into the frame, the wind moved in just the right way, the clouds that broke up, and the subject, maybe it turns, just something aligns completely that it just makes the photo so good, but it's just so split of a second when you have it. And if you left 2 minutes early, you would have never noticed it. Heck, if you left a few seconds too early, you won't notice it, you know? And that is why some photographers seem luckier than others. Of course, you know, luck is real, but what I'm getting at here is that patience give luck more chances to happen. And that part, it isn't very glamorous, because talent, it sounds sexy. And like, I'm a talented, sexy Viking boy, you know? And patience, it sounds boring as hell. But the truth is that patience wins all the time in photography. The photographer who gets the shot are very often just the ones who stayed longer, who waited longer, who came back, and who returned for better weather. It's also the ones who gave the scene another 10 minutes instead of just declaring this is dead too early. I mean, guys, I've waited for well over an hour on a street where I found a frame just for the right person to step into it, and preferably just one. I often like that, you know, and it sometimes just have to wait and wait and wait. And it's not always worth it, because often nothing happens, you know, but when it does, oh man, it's just so good. Plus, I cannot tell you guys how often I've woken up before dawn just for the sunrise to suck badly. Or I've hiked to a location, long hike, just for the light to just be freaking terrible. That's the truth. That's just the life of outdoor photography, you know? You see, a lot of great photography isn't about magic. It's about staying long enough for the moment to arrive. Patience, it beats talent more often than people think, because patience gives the world more chances to do something interesting in front of you. And that's the boring truth about photography. It's less about these secret tricks and hacks and more about doing the simple things really well. But if I had to start photography all over again in 2026, knowing what I know now, and also knowing how much stuff beginners waste time on, I would do a few things very differently. And that's exactly what I break down in this video right here.